My son laughed at me. Not a nervous laugh, not an uncomfortable laugh, a real, genuine, from the belly laugh. Like I had just told him the funniest joke he had heard all year. I had just told him I needed heart surgery. Let me back up. My name is Frank Delworth. I am 63 years old. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment in Columbus, Ohio, on the kind of street where your neighbors wave at you, but nobody really knows anybody. I drive a 2009 Silverado with a crack in the dashboard that I keep meaning to fix. I eat eggs most mornings because they are cheap and easy, and I have been eating eggs most mornings for about 40 years now, so at this point, it is less of a choice and more of a personality trait. I spent 35 years teaching shop class at Eastmore High School on the east side of Columbus. Wood, metal, basic mechanics. I taught kids how to build things with their hands. Kids who came from nothing. Kids who needed someone to tell them that making something real, something solid, something you could hold, was worth something. I believed that. I still believe that. I never got rich believing it, but I slept fine. That is the part my son never forgave me for. His name is Derek. Derek Allen Delworth, 38 years old, MBA from Ohio State. Now runs some kind of wealth management firm up in Dublin, the fancy part of Columbus, where the houses have 3-car garages and the dogs have better healthcare than I do. He married a woman named Courtney, who once told me, completely seriously, that she does not eat anything that casts a shadow. I still do not know what that means. I have thought about it for 4 years. Derek grew up watching me choose purpose over profit, and he decided, somewhere along the way, that he would never make that mistake. I used to think that was ambition. Turns out, it was something else entirely. His mother, my ex-wife Renee, left when Derek was 13. She did not leave for another man. She left for a lifestyle. She remarried within a year, moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, and somewhere between the golf courses and the resort pools, she became a different person. Derek visited her every summer. He came back each fall a little shinier and a little colder. By the time he graduated college, he called me Frank instead of Dad. He said it felt more natural. That should have told me everything. We stayed in contact. Barely. Birthday calls that lasted 4 minutes. Christmas texts. The occasional dinner, where he would look around my apartment with this expression that was not quite disgust, but was definitely not respect. He paid for dinner every time we went out, and every time he did it, he made sure I knew it. Sliding the card across the table with this little pause, this little moment of silence, like he was waiting for applause. I never gave him the applause. Maybe that was my fault. Last February, I collapsed in the frozen food aisle of a Kroger on Morse Road. 1 second, I was reaching for a bag of peas, and the next second, I was on the floor, looking up at a very concerned woman in a Cleveland Browns coat and a teenage stock boy who had no idea what to do with his hands. The doctors at Ohio Health found the problem fast: severe aortic valve disease. The valve that is supposed to open and close, that is supposed to keep everything moving the way God designed it to move, was failing. Had probably been failing quietly for years, the way a lot of things fail quietly before they become a crisis. Surgery. That was the word they kept using. Not maybe surgery. Not consider surgery. Surgery. Within 60 days. My insurance covered most of it. I want to be clear about that, because I know what you are thinking. But there was a gap. A $5,000 gap between what insurance covered and what the hospital required before they would schedule the procedure. $5,000. I had $1,200 in my savings account. I had already borrowed against everything else years ago when I was helping Derek get through college. Back when he still let me help him. Back when I was still useful to him. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time before I made the call. I am not a man who asks for help. That is not pride talking. That is just how I was built. You handle your business. You figure it out. You do not put your problems in someone else's lap. But I was 63 years old, and my heart was failing, and I had $1,200 and a cracked dashboard. So I called my son. He answered on the third ring. I could hear noise in the background. Restaurant noise. The kind of restaurant where the noise sounds expensive. I told him I was sick. I told him about the surgery. I told him about the $5,000. I told him I had never asked him for a single thing in his adult life, which was true. My voice was steady. I was proud of it for being steady. There was a pause, and then Derek laughed. Not a short laugh, not a courtesy laugh, a full laugh, like something had genuinely tickled him. And then he said, and I want you to understand that these were his exact words. He said, "Dad, come on. You spent your whole life being broke on purpose. That is not really something I can fix." I did not say anything. He kept going. $5,000. You are calling me about $5,000. He said it the way you would say, you are calling me about a parking ticket. I have a client dinner right now. I really cannot do this tonight. I said, Derek, I need heart surgery. He said, I heard you the first time. And then he hung up. I sat there, holding my phone. The apartment was quiet. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, someone was honking on Livingston Avenue. Normal Tuesday night sounds. The world was just going about its business, while I sat there, trying to process the fact that my son had just laughed at me for having a dying heart. I want to tell you I cried, but I did not. I was too far past something for crying. I found out 3 days later, from a former student of mine named Reggie, who follows Derek on Instagram, because apparently my former students are more connected to my son than I am, that Derek had posted a photo that same night. Him and Courtney at a rooftop restaurant in the short north. Cocktails, candles. Derek in a blazer that probably cost more than my truck. The caption said, "Good things happen when you play the long game." I almost put my phone through a wall. I did not tell anyone what happened. Not my neighbor Paulette, who checks on me more than she should. Not my old teaching partner Bert, who still calls every couple of weeks. I just got quiet and started trying to figure out the money problem myself. Selling things, looking at loans, running numbers that did not add up no matter how many times I ran them. Then, 5 weeks after that phone call, something arrived in my mailbox. An envelope, no return address, Columbus postmark. Inside was a cashier's check for $7,000 and a typed note. Just one line. It said, "For your surgery, you gave the best of yourself. You deserved better." No signature, nothing else. I stood in my hallway and read it 4 times. My hands were doing something I did not give them permission to do. $7,000. From nobody. From someone who knew what happened, or at least knew enough. Someone who thought I was worth $7,000 when my own son did not think I was worth 5. I deposited the check that afternoon. I scheduled the surgery for March 15th. I did not tell anyone about the envelope. I should have known better. Because 2 weeks later, Derek called me, and this time he was not laughing. He was screaming. And what he said when I picked up that phone, what he actually said to me, changed every single thing that happened next. I barely got the phone to my ear before he started. "You called her?" Derek's voice was so loud that I had to pull the phone away from my face. "You actually went behind my back and called her?" I was standing in my kitchen, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, trying to figure out what he was talking about. It was a Sunday morning, late February, gray sky outside, the kind of cold Ohio morning where the air feels like it is trying to hurt you. "Derek, slow down. I did not call anyone. Do not lie to me." He was breathing hard. I could picture him pacing somewhere expensive, probably wearing those ridiculous loafers he liked, the ones with no socks, because apparently socks were for poor people. "I know she sent you money. I know it was her, and I know you manipulated her into doing it." "She?" My stomach dropped. He was talking about Renee, his mother, my ex-wife, The woman who left 25 years ago and never looked back. The woman I had not spoken to in over a decade. Derek. I set my coffee down because my hand was starting to shake and I did not want to drop it. I have not talked to your mother in years. I do not even have her phone number. Then explain to me how she suddenly knows about your surgery. Explain how she suddenly feels guilty enough to send you $7,000 because someone told her, Dad, someone made her feel like the villain, and that someone is you. $7,000. So that was it. That was who sent the money. Renee. After all these years, after everything. I leaned against the counter and closed my eyes. I did not contact her, I said. I do not know how she found out, but it was not from me. Derek laughed. That same laugh from before. The one that made me feel like something less than a person. Right. So, it is just a coincidence that my mother, who has not given a damn about either of us in decades, suddenly decides to play hero. You expect me to believe that? Actually, Derek, I expected you to play hero. That was the whole point of calling you. I did not say that out loud, but I thought it so hard, I am surprised he could not hear it through the phone. What do you want me to say? I asked. I needed help. You said no. Someone else said yes. That is the whole story. No, that is not the whole story. His voice dropped into something colder. Something controlled. The story is that you are trying to humiliate me. You are trying to make me look bad. You called Mom so she would know I refused to help, and now you are both sitting around talking about what a terrible son I am. This is classic you, Dad. This is exactly the kind of passive-aggressive manipulation you have always done. Passive-aggressive manipulation. I taught shop class for 35 years. I showed teenagers how to use table saws without losing fingers. I coached the academic challenge team to 3 regional championships. I once drove 45 minutes in a snowstorm to pick up a kid whose parents forgot to get him from practice. And my son, my only child, thought I was the manipulative one. Derek, I am going to hang up now. I have surgery in 3 weeks. I am tired, and I am not going to stand here and defend myself against something I did not do. You are not hanging up on me. Watch me. I ended the call. 15 seconds later, my phone rang again. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. He left 4 messages. I deleted them without listening. That night, I made myself dinner. Eggs again. I sat at my kitchen table and looked at the check receipt from the bank and thought about Renee. She left when Derek was 13. I came home from work one day and her closet was empty and there was a note on the kitchen table. The note said she was sorry, but she could not do this anymore. By this, she meant me. By this, she meant our life. The house that was too small. The vacations we could not afford. The future that looked exactly like the present. Her father had offered me a job once. Real estate development. Good money. Corner office. I turned it down because I did not want to spend my life selling condos to people who already had too much. Renee never forgave me for that. She thought I chose poverty. I thought I chose purpose. We were both right. We were both wrong. She remarried fast. A man named Cliff. Cliff had golf clubs and a boat and a house in Scottsdale with a pool that Renee sent me exactly 1 photo of, back when we were still pretending to be civil about custody arrangements. Derek visited her every summer. He came back different each time, quieter, harder, watching me with new eyes. I think he was comparing. I think he decided pretty early that I lost the comparison. By the time he was 20, he was Team Renee all the way. He spent holidays in Arizona. He brought Courtney to meet his mother before he brought her to meet me. When he got married, Renee sat in the front row. I sat 3 rows back, behind Courtney's college roommates. I did not fight it. Maybe I should have. But you cannot make someone love you, not even your own kid. So the fact that Renee, of all people, had sent me money, That she had reached out after all these years. That she had done what Derek refused to do. I did not know what to do with that. 2 days later, I found out. Someone knocked on my door at 7 in the morning, not a polite knock. The kind of knock that says, I am coming in, whether you like it or not. I opened the door, and there was Derek. He was wearing a suit, no tie. He looked like he had not slept. His BMW was parked crooked at the curb, engine still running. We need to talk, he said. It is 7 in the morning, Derek. I do not care what time it is. He pushed past me into the apartment. I let him. I was too tired and too close to surgery to fight about door manners. He stood in my living room and looked around, at the furniture I had built myself, at the photos on the wall, at the 20-year-old television that still worked fine. His lip did something that was almost a sneer. You talked to her, he said. I did not. Then how did she know? I do not know, Derek. Maybe she has friends. Maybe someone saw something on Facebook. Maybe she cared enough to pay attention, which is more than I can say for some people. That landed. I watched it land. His jaw tightened. You want to know what she told me? He pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. She called me yesterday, first time in 8 months, and she said, and I quote, that she was ashamed of the man I have become, that refusing to help my own father was the most disgusting thing she had ever heard, that she sent you money because she could not stand the thought of you dying because of my selfishness. He looked up at me. She said I was just like my father. She meant it as an insult. But the funny thing is, Dad, I am nothing like you. I actually built something with my life. I actually matter. I actually matter. I let that sit for a moment. Let it fill the room. You drove across town at 7 in the morning to tell me you matter? I drove across town to tell you that whatever game you are playing, it stops now. You want to die alone and broke. That is your choice. But you do not get to drag me into your sad little victim narrative. You do not get to turn my own mother against me. Derek, your mother sent me $7,000. That is $7,000 more than you offered. If she is against you, that is not my doing. That is math. Something shifted in his face. Something ugly. You know what your problem is? He stepped closer. Your problem is, you think being poor makes you noble. You think suffering makes you special. It does not. It just makes you a burden. It just makes you someone other people have to clean up after. I have never asked you to clean up anything. You asked me for $5,000. For heart surgery. My voice cracked. I hated that it cracked. I asked my son for help staying alive. That is not being a burden, Derek. That is being a father who thought his son might give a damn. He laughed again. That same laugh. I was starting to hate that laugh more than I had ever hated anything. Give a damn, he repeated. Dad, I spent my entire childhood watching you give a damn. About your students. About your projects. About everyone except the people in your own house. Mom left because you gave a damn about everything except her. And now, you want me to feel guilty because I learned from your example? That is not what happened. That is exactly what happened. He was in my face now. Close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and sharp. You chose that school over us. You chose those kids over us. And now, you are standing here, acting surprised that I chose myself over you. You taught me that, Dad. You taught me that the only person who will take care of you is you. Is that what he thinks? Is that what he has been telling himself all these years? I looked at my son, really looked at him. The expensive suit, the fancy watch, the cold eyes that used to be warm when he was small, when he would sit in my workshop and hand me nails and ask me why wood smelled like that. Where did that kid go? Derek, I said quietly. I am having surgery in 3 weeks. The odds are good, but they are not perfect. There is a chance I do not come out of it. There is a chance this is the last real conversation we ever have." He did not move. "Is this really how you want it to end? With you standing in my living room telling me I do not matter?" For a second, just a second, I saw something flicker in his face. Something human, something that remembered being small and safe and loved. Then it was gone. "You know what you should do." His voice was ice. "You should take Mom's money, have your surgery, and then lose my number. Because I am done pretending we have a relationship. I am done pretending you are anything other than a reminder of everything I never wanted to become." He walked toward the door. "Derek." He stopped, but did not turn around. "I want you to remember this moment," I said, "because one day, probably sooner than you think, you are going to understand what you just did. And when that day comes, I want you to remember exactly how this felt." He turned, looked at me, and smiled. "The only thing I will remember is finally being free of you." The door slammed. I stood there for a long time. The silence was so heavy, I could feel it pressing on my chest. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I did not recognize. "Frank, it is Renee. I know we have not spoken, but I heard what Derek said to you, and I think it is time we talked." I stared at the screen. She heard what Derek said. How? I looked around my apartment, at the doorbell, at the small camera I had installed last year after some packages got stolen. The camera that was connected to the app on my phone. The app that, 6 months ago, Derek had insisted I share with him. For safety, he said. "In case something happens to you," he said. He had access to my doorbell camera, which meant he had been watching me, which meant he knew exactly what he was doing when he came over this morning, which meant this was not a breakdown. This was a performance. And if Renee heard it too, that meant someone else had access to that feed. That meant Derek had made a mistake. That meant everything was about to change. I called Renee that afternoon. My hands were steadier than I expected. Maybe because I had already been through the worst of it. Maybe because I was too tired to be nervous about talking to a woman I had not spoken to in 12 years. She answered on the second ring. Frank. Her voice was different than I remembered. Softer, older. There was something in it that sounded like exhaustion. "Thank you for calling me back. How did you see the video, Renee?" Straight to the point. No small talk. I did not have the energy for small talk. She paused. I heard her take a breath. "Courtney sent it to me." I almost dropped the phone. "Courtney. Derek's wife, Courtney." "Yes." Another pause. "She and I have been talking for about a year now, secretly. She reached out to me after Derek did something that scared her. I will not go into the details, but she needed someone who understood what he was capable of. And I am his mother. I know exactly what he is capable of." I walked to my kitchen table and sat down. The afternoon light was coming through the window at an angle that made everything look slightly gold. "You are telling me Courtney has access to my doorbell camera?" Derek shared it with her. Apparently, he shares everything with her. Email passwords, bank accounts, security feeds. He calls it transparency. Courtney calls it control. Control. That word sat in my chest like a stone. Why did she send you the video? Because she has been building a file, Frank. Evidence, documentation. She has been planning to leave Derek for almost 2 years, but she needed to do it right. She needed to make sure he could not destroy her in the divorce. I closed my eyes. What kind of evidence? Financial records, offshore accounts, communication with business partners that would be very interesting to federal regulators. Renee's voice dropped lower. "Frank, our son has been doing terrible things, illegal things. I did not want to believe it at first, but Courtney showed me everything. He has been defrauding clients, elderly people, retirement funds. He has been stealing from people who trusted him with their futures. My stomach turned. How long have you known this? About 8 months. Courtney found the first discrepancy and started digging. She is smarter than Derek gives her credit for. Much smarter. I thought about Courtney, the shadow food comment. The way she always seemed slightly absent at family dinners, like her mind was somewhere else. I had assumed she was just vapid. I had assumed wrong. Why are you telling me this, Renee? Because I want to make this right. Her voice cracked slightly. I left you. I left both of you. I told myself I was escaping a life that was too small. But the truth is, I was running from my own failures. I was not a good wife. I was not a good mother. And I watched Derek become something cold and cruel. And I told myself it was not my fault. She stopped. I heard her breathing. But it was my fault, Frank. At least partly. I taught him that money matters more than people. I taught him that success means stepping on whoever is in your way. I taught him that by leaving you for Cliff, by showing him that loyalty is optional. I did not know what to say, so I said nothing. The money I sent you was not pity, she continued. It was not manipulation. It was the first honest thing I have done in 25 years. You deserved that surgery. You deserved help. And our son should have been the one to give it to you. When he refused, I felt something break inside me. Renee, let me finish. She took another breath. I want to help you, not just with money. I want to help you understand what Derek has become, and I want to give you a choice about what to do with that information. What kind of choice? Courtney and I have been working with a forensic accountant and a journalist at the Columbus Dispatch who has been investigating wealth management fraud in Central Ohio. Everything is in place to expose Derek, his crimes, his cruelty, everything. My heart was beating faster. I could feel it in my chest, that damaged valve working overtime. But before we do anything, Renee said, I thought Derek deserved one more chance, one real chance to choose differently. And I thought that chance should come from you. I sat with that for a long moment. You want me to give him a chance to do the right thing? Yes. And if he refuses, then we let everything else happen. But at least we will know. At least we will know we tried. At least we will know we tried. I thought about Derek standing in my living room, the smile when he told me he would remember being free of me, the coldness in his eyes. Did he deserve another chance? Did it matter if he deserved it? What exactly are you proposing? Renee told me. And 3 weeks later, after my surgery, after I had healed enough to sit upright without pain, I agreed. The dinner was set for April. Courtney arranged everything. A private room at a steakhouse in Dublin called The Avenue. The kind of place Derek liked. Leather booths, dim lighting, prices that made my eyes water. She told Derek that she wanted the family to reconcile, that she was tired of the tension, that his father had almost died and life was too short for grudges. She played the role perfectly. Supportive wife wanting peace. Derek agreed because he thought it would make him look good. I understood that about him now. Everything was about appearances. Everything was about the performance. The night of the dinner was warm, early April. The kind of evening where Columbus starts to believe that winter might actually be over. I arrived first. Renee was already there, sitting in the private room, looking better than I expected. Older, obviously, but still Renee, still that sharp intelligence in her eyes. Courtney came in next. She hugged me, actually hugged me, like I was family, like I had always been family. Thank you for doing this, she whispered. Then Derek arrived. He walked in wearing another expensive suit. He saw the three of us sitting together, and something flickered across his face. Confusion, suspicion. But he covered it quickly. He sat down across from me and ordered a whiskey like nothing was wrong. Well, he said, This is unexpected. The whole gang. We wanted to talk to you, Courtney said. Her voice was calm, controlled. All of us, together. Derek looked at her, then at Renee, then at me. About what? I leaned forward. About your grandfather's estate. Derek's expression shifted. Interest now. Greed, barely hidden. Mom's father? He died what, 6 months ago? Renee nodded. 8 months. And he left $14 million in a trust. I watched Derek's eyes change, watched the calculation happen in real time. I did not know he had that much. You did not know a lot of things. Renee's voice was cold now. You did not know, for example, that he changed his will before he died, that he was disgusted by what you had become, that he made Frank the trustee of the entire estate. Derek turned to me. His face went pale. You? Me. That is insane. You are not even family anymore. Your grandfather thought otherwise. I pulled out a folder that Courtney had given me earlier. Legal documents, bank statements, the trust agreement. He wanted me to evaluate whether you were worthy of inheriting his money. He wanted someone who would be honest about who you really are. Derek stood up. His chair scraped against the floor. This is a setup. This is a scam. Sit down, Derek. He did not sit. You think I need his money? I have my own money. I have more money than that old man ever dreamed of. No, you do not. Courtney's voice cut through the room. You have stolen money, borrowed money, hidden money, but your actual assets are frozen as of yesterday afternoon. Derek turned to her. What did you just say? Courtney pulled out her phone, showed him a document. I have been working with the SEC for 14 months. Everything you did, Derek, the insider trading, the client fraud, the offshore accounts, they have everything. And this morning, they executed a warrant to freeze your assets pending investigation. The color drained from Derek's face completely. You. His voice was barely a whisper. You did this. You did this to yourself. I just documented it. Derek looked around the table, at his mother, at his wife, at me. So this is what? Some kind of revenge? Some kind of family tribunal? I shook my head. This is a choice, Derek. The same choice you had when I called you about my surgery. The same choice you have had every day of your adult life. I stood up, walked around the table until I was standing in front of him. I am not going to lecture you about what you did to those clients, about the retirement funds you destroyed, about the lives you ruined. You already know what you did. The question is whether you can admit it. Derek said nothing. Your grandfather left me discretion over this trust. If I determine that you have shown genuine remorse, genuine accountability, the money goes to you. All 14 million. Tax-free. Clean. I paused. All you have to do is apologize. Not to me. I do not care about an apology. But to the people you hurt. To the clients you stole from. Go public. Take responsibility. Face the consequences like a man. Derek laughed. That same laugh. You want me to destroy my own life to inherit money that should already be mine. I want you to be honest, for the first time in your entire adult life. And if I refuse, then the money goes to charity, to vocational education programs across Ohio, to kids who remind me of my students, kids who actually want to build something real. Derek stared at me. Then he lunged. Not at me, at Courtney. I moved without thinking, stepped between them. His fist connected with my shoulder instead of her face. The impact sent pain shooting through my chest, near the surgery scar, but I stayed upright. Security rushed in, 2 men in black suits. They grabbed Derek and pulled him back. "Get off me!" he screamed. "Get off me!" She is lying. They are all lying. The security guards dragged him toward the door. "You will regret this," Derek shouted. "All of you. I will destroy every single one of you." I looked at my son, really looked at him. The twisted face, the rage, the absolute absence of anything resembling the boy I once knew. I already have my answer, I said quietly. He did not hear me. He was still screaming when they took him outside. 3 months later, Derek was indicted on 17 counts of securities fraud. His trial lasted 6 weeks. He was convicted on 15 counts, sentenced to 12 years. Courtney got full custody of their children. She moved to a smaller house, closer to Columbus. She brings the kids to see me every other Sunday. They call me Grandpa Frank. They are learning how to build things with their hands. Renee and I do not remarry. We are too old and too different for that now. But we talk. Every week. Sometimes more. There is something between us that is not quite forgiveness, but is close to understanding. The trust money went exactly where I promised. Vocational programs in 12 Ohio counties, shop classes and welding courses, and woodworking workshops for kids who need something real to hold on to. Last month, they opened a new training center in Columbus. They named it after me, the Frank Delworth Center for Applied Trades. 300 people came to the ceremony. Former students, colleagues, neighbors I barely knew I had. Derek called me from prison the night before the opening. Collect call. I let it ring 4 times before I answered. Dad. His voice was small, broken. I saw the news about the center. I did not say anything. I am sorry. He was crying. I could hear it. I am so sorry for everything. I looked out my window at the April evening. The same kind of evening as the dinner. The same kind of warmth. I know you are, I said. Then I hung up. Some doors close forever, not because you want them to, but because you finally understand that leaving them open will only let more pain through. I sat on my porch that night, built a small wooden box for my granddaughter, sanded the edges until they were smooth, thought about all the years behind me and whatever years were still ahead. My heart was still beating, damaged but working, just like me.